Hey everyone, can you hear me? How are you guys all doing? Now that I've been streaming for a week and a half, it's nice to see a lot of returning faces and getting to really know you guys. And I know my streams are still a little bit random because I'm sort of like thinking on the fly about what I want to talk about or what we can do on these streams. But I think, give it a week or two and we'll get into a natural rhythm where I'm thinking maybe one day of the week will just be like group study, code, or work. And then another day might be like just hang out, AMA, or maybe showing you guys a particular project that I'm doing. And then maybe another day it'll be a presentation where I teach you guys something. But for that, if I'm gonna be coding in Xcode and compiling, I'm gonna need my new Mac that hasn't actually come in yet. Hey, good morning, James. Yeah, what time of day is it for you guys? Does this time slot work out? I know there's no perfect time that's going to work for everyone, unfortunately, but hopefully we can, make the stream at a time where most of everyone can make it. And for me, I actually prefer the mornings, just because I feel like I'm the most alert. After lunch is probably the worst, after just eating a meal. Hey Sergio, thank you for joining during your afternoon. Hello Mr. Worker, and hello Slava. Thank you so much for watching the videos. I know it's been a while. Did you guys catch the video that just came out yesterday? I took a lot of that coding tips from the audience and from the newsletter. So from time to time I'll pose a question to our newsletters, and every Saturday we send one. And I got so much feedback coming back that it took me a long time to actually compile that feedback. Well, not feedback, because I was asking for coding tips for beginners. And the people who replied, there was a mixture. So the people who, were into iOS a little bit farther down the road, they gave their advice to beginners and to their former selves. But for people who were just starting out, they gave me feedback on what they were struggling with. So that's really helpful too. And I've got a bunch of that feedback for a future video. Hey John. Yeah, is anyone else having a low volume or low audio issue? Let me know. I think from my end, the audio mixer looks pretty good. If I increase the mic anymore, I might start getting some feedback, and that's not going to be good for your ears. All right, well, just let me know in the chat. So let's get started with what I wanted to show you guys today. And in the last stream, I talked about this CodeWithChris app, and so we've made a little more progress on it just in terms of planning out this next sprint that we're working on. Let me just increase the font size a little bit more. Zoom in, okay. So that you guys can see. Let me just pull up another chart. Just for those of you who weren't here in the last stream, I can show you what this is all about just very quickly before I dive in. And also, I'm treating this stream as a AMA, so I'm going to be checking the chat a little more frequently for your questions. So do drop me any questions down there in the comment section or the live chat, and I'll get to answering. Tutor, you can't hear me as your speakers don't work? Wait, as your speakers don't work or my speakers don't work? Can you guys even hear me? I think my mic is on. Okay, you scared me there for a second. I honestly thought... All right, let me just double check her. I don't want to be talking for an hour without anyone actually hearing me. Okay, you know what? Okay. So maybe I'll turn down the music. Maybe that will help, you know? Let me turn down the music a little bit. Maybe that will actually help. Okay, cool. Tutor, your speakers don't work. Okay, got it. Okay. So unfortunately, I can't do anything about that. You're gonna have to get some new speakers, Tutor. All right, cool. So I'm going to talk about this CWC app, and just very briefly, because I do see a lot of familiar faces here, so I don't want to rehash everything that we talked about in the last stream. But essentially, this app is going to be the official CodeWithChris app. So we're going to feature our content in here, but also for our program members, you know, the CWC Plus program, where we have all of our courses and stuff. Those people will be able to log into the app and then download videos for offline access. So that's one of the huge motivating factors for creating this. So in this charting software, we've identified several different user journeys that, you know, this app will include, but the very first one, and we're just getting started with this app, so you're really getting a, you know, on the ground look at it. We are doing this guest journey where people don't have to create an account, but they can still view some of the videos, in particular the 14-day beginner challenge. So that's sort of the background and the context. What we've done here is we've mapped out some of the very first tasks that we're going to need to tackle in order to get that done. So today on the stream, I thought I would answer your questions while I do some of the work here, and we'll see how well I can do that, because that's sort of splitting the attention between two different things. I mean, one of the very first things we need to do is take a look at the data on the screen. And we do have some wireframes that our designer has put together. And so from these wireframes, they're not finalized. So it's maybe not the best idea to work off of unfinalized wireframes. Us as a team, we haven't gone through this and sort of decided, okay, this is all of the data we want to show on the screen. But I'm going to use it anyways, just for the purpose of maybe demonstrating some of my thought process and how I would take a look at an app and think about how the data is going to be represented on the back end. And I'll talk about the backends that we're using and stuff. But anyways, for now, let's take a look at the chat, because I did say that this is going to be an AMA. So I did see some questions come in. Okay. I think I saw a question from Robert. So Robert asks, how did you get started on your programming journey? So for me, it was pretty accidental, because I had to take a mandatory coding class in high school in grade 10. So that introduced me to the world of programming, and I sort of just fell in love with it there. I didn't know that this was something that people could do, you know, write programs and make computers do stuff. So it was just this epiphany that I had, and that I could even use my PC at home to write programs. So that really opened up my eyes, and that sort of became my hobby for a lot of the time. And it was at that time I decided, okay, as my career, that's what I want to go into. For, you know, post-secondary education, that's what I want to do. Before that, I think I wanted to do graphic design. I'd always liked graphic design. So let's see what other questions we have here. When learning to code, what's the best approach, as in how many hours of reading and watching tutorials to actually writing code? So in the past, I said that this is a one-to-one, because whatever you're learning, whatever you're seeing someone do in a video, it's best to try it out yourself on your own computer, because that's how you learn. It helps you retain the information, and reading it and watching it is sort of just like the theory, but it's not until you actually do it yourself that there are a lot of like insights that will come up, and you sort of understand it in a different way. So just to tell you a funny story, for me, when I first started learning iOS programming, and back then it was Objective-C, I had already been, programming as a professional. At that time, I was working full-time at a company, and they had the first iPad project for a news broadcasting company here in Canada. They wanted to build a news app to feature their articles and stuff. So I was tasked to build this, and at that time, no one else at the company had known Objective-C or done any iOS development. So I picked up a book and I read it. And because I had that background, that programming background and computer science background, it was pretty simple to read through. And I basically went through the whole book, and through every chapter, I understood what they were talking about. Things made sense, but I didn't do any of it, right? I wasn't actually doing it while reading it. And at the end of the book, I thought, okay, like now I have a firm grasp on Objective-C and iOS development. Well, when I sat down to actually start, I realized I didn't know how to start. And so that became, later on, this experience became a basis for how I teach and how I recommend beginners to learn, is that, you cannot just watch the videos or read the book, and you shouldn't even wait that long to get your hands dirty. So as much as possible, try to start. If you don't have a Mac, you can still start. There are, online, Rappel is one. Is it Rappel it? Yeah, this one. This is one that you can use. It has you can do Swift in here online. So even if you don't have a Mac right away, maybe you're waiting for it to come in, or maybe you actually don't have a Mac, you can still learn Swift through things like this. Swift Online Editor. Yeah, there are a bunch of different ones here. So Rappel, this one I talked about. This one is a little older one. I don't know if this one still works. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to transition between the questions and here. So let's come back here for a second, and let's talk about our designer and sort of how he started thinking about it. Because, as a designer, you want to be following best practices, and you want to design something that, in the same design language that people are used to seeing for that type of app. And so in talking with a lot of the different designers, I find that one of the first things that they do is take a look at other types of apps, other apps out there that are of the same type. So in this case, our designer took a look at Masterclass and also at Skillshare. And I mean, there are other apps out there that are video-based, online learning platform type of things, but we've only taken a look at 2 of them so far. And, you want to get an idea for what other people are doing and sort of the user experiences that they have. And obviously these larger companies have gone through user testing, and they've done iterations to improve the interface. So you're sort of shortcutting things, right, by taking a look at what they're doing. In terms of the look and feel, like that's going to be your own look and feel and your own design, but there are maybe ways that the user uses these apps that you can draw from. So for example, I mean, Netflix is a big one, and Masterclass is one. We were one thing that I want to mention in particular is the ability to download videos offline. So if you guys have used the Netflix iOS app, you actually you tap on each video or each episode you want to download and it downloads it. Whereas for Skillshare, they had a very different way of doing things. So I don't know if it's shown here. It's actually, yeah, here. So for example, for this course, this Skillshare course, they have this toggle switch right here, which when you toggle on, it just downloads all of the lessons in that course. And if you want to toggle, like if you want to delete your offline downloads, you just toggle this off so that you cannot download individual lessons. And at first I thought, I didn't like that lack of control, but then as I used this app a little more, I began to appreciate, the simplicity of it. So I don't have to manage individual downloaded lessons and episodes. It's just a single toggle, right? And the idea is that if I'm going through this course, chances are I'd want to watch all of these lessons in the course. And so it just goes ahead and downloads all of them offline. So, I mean, those are the reasons why. That's just an example of why you do these sort of exercises and take a look at what other people are doing. All right, let's take a look at the chat here. Sai, I started programming in university. I wish I could have started earlier. Yeah, same here. People are starting really early now. My 4-year-old daughter is learning Scratch coding through school now. So it's great to see that. June, welcome back. It's nice to see you again. Do you think Flutter or React Native will replace native development? So, and then you had a second question there. What should you learn first, SwiftUI or UIKit, if you want to get a job? So regarding the first question, Flutter or React Native, I actually haven't played around with them before, so I can't say, but Mark, who I don't think is in the chat today, but Mark from Big Mountain Studio, as part of his full-time job, he was working with Xamarin for a long time. And so Xamarin is that sort of thing where I can't type properly, where it's not native iOS development, but it's where you can use C# and Visual Studio. Is it Visual Studio that you use Xamarin with? I don't know. But you can build iOS apps and Android apps with it. So he ran into a lot of difficulties with Xamarin, and I think his opinion is he doesn't really recommend it if you have a choice. If you don't have a choice and you're constrained by other limitations, then you do what you have to do. But in terms of Flutter and React Native, I'll always see them as sort of like non-native solutions. And in my head, at least, and I might be mistaken, those will never be as good as native if you want to harness the power of everything that Apple has to offer on their platforms, all of their APIs and stuff. Because if you think about just conceptually, these cross-platform solutions there has to be a bridge somewhere between what you do on Flutter and React to the Apple APIs. And so it's always another layer that you're introducing on top. So my opinion, and again, I might be biased and I might be wrong here. So if anyone in the chat, has great experiences with Flutter and React Native and has really pushed the limits of it and tested it out, then definitely chime in. But my opinion is I would go native if you had the choice, I mean. And plus, it really depends on how complicated your app is. So if it's, not using a lot of the low-level Apple APIs and it's pretty simple, and you need a cross-platform solution because you want Android version and you want like your iOS version, then maybe that's a great solution for you. So I guess it depends. And the job prospects for Flutter and React Native, I'm sure there's jobs out there and employers out there looking for those developers, right? So I don't think it sort of limits you. But in terms of SwiftUI or UIKit, if you want to get a job, I honestly haven't been in the job market, but I have seen SwiftUI pick up significantly since it was introduced. And at that point in time, I guess it was like a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago now, where I was like, UI kit is still the thing to learn if you want to get a job, where SwiftUI is sort of like the play thing that you do on the side, the thing that most companies might be just dedicating very little resources, very little developers to explore. But then now, we're starting to see full apps built in SwiftUI that are pretty compelling. And also, with Apple, they decide what they want to push, and that's the thing they're going to put their full marketing and PR power behind. So the same thing happened with Swift, right? When it was introduced over Objective-C and now SwiftUI. So if they say like that is the future, then you can be sure that over time, new features and new things could only be limited to SwiftUI, and it's only a matter of time. Maybe we're talking about years and years into the future where SwiftUI might overtake. But in terms of job prospects, maybe for like right now, I guess you're asking for right now, maybe the simplest thing to do is just go on a job site, right? And then look for SwiftUI versus UIKit developers. At the end of the day, I feel like most iOS developers won't be able to pigeonhole themselves into one, right? Just because you are a UIKit developer doesn't mean you can't be a SwiftUI developer as well. I feel like these things, like they're not going to be looking for a SwiftUI developer or UIKit developer. I feel like the job posting is going to be for an iOS developer, and you might just need to know both. Splashfruit, your question is sort of similar. Do you think it's still worth learning UIKit? I completed the iOS Foundations and Databases course. Thank you. Should I remain learning UIKit or switch to SwiftUI? So if you're starting brand new right now, I would say that SwiftUI definitely is the way to go to start. If you have already, you're well into UIKit, then to be honest, SwiftUI wouldn't be a really far reach for you. But if your priority is building your own apps right now and you want to like implement your ideas really quickly, or maybe you want to try out one of the new Apple APIs that are just SwiftUI only, then that's a reason to learn SwiftUI. But I mean, if you want to implement your own apps and you already know UIKit, then maybe just stick with that. Yeah. What were you doing there before Software 2? Yeah, so I guess you're asking about my my old company. Yeah, I was a software developer there. So Zeus of Hollywood got to go audio unacceptable. I really want to get to the bottom of this audio problem. Is it too soft or is it staticky? Definitely let me know. Okay, Land asks, if you had to start over learning Swift, what would be your best approach? Would you start by learning the fundamentals first, or would you dive straight into a project? I think you'd have to at least get some fundamentals down first before you can build anything. If you just dive straight into a project, you wouldn't be able to do it. So definitely learn some of the basics first, like how to construct some basic layouts, how to construct some do some basic Swift logic. Thank you so much, June. I really appreciate your super chat. Thank you. I would definitely learn the basics first, Land. Just like how to express some basic logic with Swift, how to build some basic layouts. And then, like I said before, you have to get your hands dirty and you have to definitely try things out. So definitely, again, learn the basics and then go transition into trying to build your own small project. Start really small. I know for a lot of the beginners, my advice is a lot of people get into app development because they have an app idea, but usually it's pretty far out of reach. So don't lose sight of that app idea. Keep it in mind, but at the same time realize that what you're learning can't be rushed. It's a skill. It's a very valuable and marketable skill that it's just like learning a language or learning piano or learning guitar or something. It does take time and practice. And if you have that sort of mindset where you know you can make it, it's just going to take practice and time. If you keep that sort of mindset, then you will reach your goal. Often people give up because they had unrealistic expectations about how far they can get and how quickly they can get there. Sudeepto asks, can we integrate SwiftUI and UIKit together in a single project? Yes, you definitely can. And you can do it both ways too, if I believe. I've only done it the way where I have a SwiftUI project and you integrate UIKit into it. But I haven't done it the other way around. But from what I've heard, you can. And the reason why you probably will have to do that to a SwiftUI project is because SwiftUI doesn't have all of the components and all of the cool things that UIKit has, because UIKit definitely has been around longer. So maybe going back to your question, Splashfruit, do you still think it's worth continuing UIKit versus switching to SwiftUI? That's one aspect to consider, is that UIKit has a ton more libraries and controls and things like that if you're used to using, then by all means go ahead and stay using that. But at some point you're going to have to start picking up and learning SwiftUI. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have here while we wait for more questions to come in. So we decided to start with iPad. We wanted to do this code base that would support mobile and iPad, both form factors, and maybe Mac OS as well. But in this iPad format, what we were imagining here is that when someone logs in, that there's a learning path. And that's one thing that I've learned over the years in teaching iOS, is that there's a ton of content out there. But I think what's very valuable is organizing that content in a way, in sort of like a step-by-step fashion for someone to follow. And that's why someone would pay for lessons, right? Or pays for a course, even though there are tons of tutorials out there, because you don't really know where to start and you want to be taken on a journey. You want to be guided along and be told, here's what you do next, and here's what you learn next, and here's, and so that's what we try to do with our foundations course in our CWC Plus. And I've basically taken like the first 14 lessons of that foundations course, and it's free on YouTube. If you go into youtube.com/CodeWithChris, you'll see the 14-day beginner challenge in SwiftUI, and that basically is the starting point that I would recommend. And beyond 14 lessons, even if you don't decide to continue with that, after those 14 lessons, you have a pretty solid idea of building UIs in SwiftUI, and also expressing some basic logic with Swift. And you get introduced to Swift as if you don't have any coding background, because that was the intention for the course. So that's in this app, that's what I really want to present to the user, is here's your starting point. So this big gray block is going to feature that 14-day beginner challenge. And down here will be our different course listings that we have. We have a course overview. So when you click into a course, there's obviously a description. I want to have a overview video for each of these course overviews. Learning outcomes is actually something that I learned about when we tried to get our program into classrooms and schools. The language that teachers use and school boards and, in the education system, I was not familiar with those terms. And I learned that, if you want to be taken seriously in that sort of realm, you have to be speaking the language. So learning outcomes is really important. But if you're not in the education space, like the school education space, learning outcomes just means the goals. Like, what are you going to get by taking this course? What skills are you going to end up with? And so that's what it is. And you know, it's important to list that out, so someone, they're dedicating their time and effort into taking this course or watching this lesson. What do they get out of it? And that's actually something I'm starting to really make a focus to do on the YouTube tutorials as well in the upcoming ones, is that right in the beginning of the video, to tell the viewer, by watching this tutorial, what are you gonna accomplish by the end of it, or you know, show them the result, because often those tutorials are pretty long too. Okay, so aside from this course overview page, there's going to be lessons, and it really boggles my mind when I was starting this iOS Foundations course that there are actually so many lessons to it. So anyways, going back to looking at this data, I've sort of forgotten the purpose we were here. I wanted to model the data, like how are all of these pieces of information that we see here on the wireframe, how is it going to be represented in data, right? Because the app needs to connect to some data source to get all of this information. So you take note of things like this. So a course might have an overview video, right? So we're going to need some sort of stream URL attribute to represent that. It has a title, right? A description, learning outcomes if we actually end up doing that, because like I said, these wireframes aren't finalized yet. But if you go down here, this is a lesson page. This is an individual lesson. So when you go down to an individual lesson, you have the title of the lesson, description of the lesson, and also duration. Pretty simple, not very complicated at all. And maybe we'll just pull up. I was planning to do this in a document. Let's check the stream, see if there's any questions here. June asks, should Swift developers also prepare for coding interviews in Lead Code and HackerRank? You know, I don't know what, I think it really depends on the types of companies you are applying to. First of all, I don't think those things would hurt. Like if you create an account on those and you have, you spend time on them and you can show, some sort of, I don't know what they do, accreditations or certificates or rankings or something like that. I don't think it will hurt to put that stuff on your resume. Because I haven't been in the job market, I don't know if companies are specifically looking for those types of credentials from those two sites. But if they prepare you for algorithm questions or like technical questions, that definitely cannot hurt. Another good way to prepare for interviews as a Swift developer, someone that I actually always recommend is Wayne Bishop. I don't know if you guys have heard of him before. Oh man, not Wayne. There's too many Wayne Bishops. There we go. So I believe that Wayne Bishop is an iOS architect at a company, and his whole thing is basically helping people with algorithms and data structures, and as you can see here, to pass your iOS interview. So he has a lot of like books and services as well. Like he has a service where you can actually he'll help you interview prep. So I think he might, I don't actually know because I haven't taken it, but he might do a mock interview with you. That's what it's called. Yeah. Yeah, so definitely check Wayne out. He's got, even if you don't take any of his services or products, he has a bunch of blog posts and stuff like that. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the data for this app and where that data is coming from. So people will be able to log into their CodeWithChris account, and these accounts are basically accounts. The user store is on our WordPress platform on our website, because that's what we use on the back end. So in terms of authentication and confirming that you actually have an account, we're going to be hitting the WordPress API to authenticate you. But then in terms of the content and what you have access to, you know, whether or not you are a CWC Plus member, so you have access to all the courses, or you don't have a membership, which is fine because you can still access all of the free content we have. That sort of authorization on what sorts of courses are available to you is through the Thinkific API. So Thinkific is the learning platform that we use, and they have an API for us to access to look at different things. So for example, we would be looking under enrollments to take a look at, we'll probably pass in the email of the logged in user into this API to see what courses they are enrolled in. And then this would give us a bunch of information back on what courses they have access to. Now, I wish it stopped there, but unfortunately it doesn't, because this Thinkific API doesn't actually expose the streaming video URLs for all of the lessons. So you can see here, it has courses, and each course will have chapters. So chapters are modules, and then each chapter will have contents, and these are the lessons. Unfortunately, these lessons do not give the video URL for us to play through the app. So this URL that the lesson exposes, this is just the URL to visit that lesson page on Thinkific. So I don't think they meant for this API to be used in the way that we want to use it, as, you know, a way to play the learning platform content on a mobile app. Now, they themselves say that they have a Thinkific mobile app, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking to build, you know, a CodeWithChris official app. So what I decided to do, or what we are going to do, is we are going to keep a separate set of these videos on Vimeo, which we have a company Vimeo account, and then those videos will have streaming URLs. Unfortunately, we can't store those streaming URLs in Thinkific because it's not a database or anything like that. So we're going to have a separate Firestore database to keep that. So now, like, this is getting more and more complex. The benefit is having our own database where we can sort of store anything we want, including these video streaming URLs, is that we can store other metadata. For example, if in the future for this app we want to do like achievements or badges or whatever for user metadata, we can use Firebase or the Firestore database to store that information. So just to do a quick recap, the app connects to WordPress API to confirm your account, to authenticate you. It connects to the Thinkific API to check what sorts of courses you have access to on our platform. And then it's going to connect to a Firestore database for the actual streaming URLs and any other metadata we decide to keep about the user inside the app. All right, let's check some questions here. Barcode asks, do you have any tutorials on writing iOS apps in Objective-C? I'm a new developer and my work has older apps that I'm trying to understand on how to navigate. I don't understand how to view and navigate to each screen in Xcode. Unfortunately, well, so to start, I started my blog in Objective-C. So, and then on YouTube, if you look way back in my channel, you'll find a ton of Objective-C content as well. So if you go to CodeWithChris and you just search Objective-C, I have a tutorial on writing Objective-C code. So like understanding it. And let me just find it. Yeah. Blast from the past. Okay. Yeah. So in here, I actually wrote the equivalent for Swift. So if you know Swift, this actually might be helpful. And to be honest, if Objective-C has changed since then, this might not actually be relevant either. So, oh wait, this is about learning Swift from Objective-C. No, I had something else. Anyways, this is... yeah, this is what I was referring to. So this is my Objective-C guide. So this, I was trying to teach people Objective-C here. So this is really, this is an old article I wrote in the first year of starting Code with Chris. Oh, that's actually changed. So I'll paste this URL in here in case you want to check it out. But that's Objective-C. In terms of how Objective-C, like a project, looks like in modern Xcode now, I'm actually not sure. So unfortunately, I can't help you with that. But there must be Objective-C resources out there. And there's definitely still people working with Objective-C. So hopefully a Google search will turn up something useful for you. Hey, good morning, Adrian. Ethan asks, Chris, I got my undergrad in data management, going for a graduate in software development. Any advice in general for students in regards to networking, having a LinkedIn portfolio website? So this is actually a really good question because I go through, well, I interview and screen a lot of students for internships here through that university co-op program, cooperative education, I think they call it. But essentially, these students alternate between 4 months of school and 4 months of work placement. And us as employers, if we hire these students, the government heavily subsidizes our costs for hiring the student because they definitely want to help. You know, it's a government incentive to help students get more work experience. So anyways, that's why I interview a lot of students through the university. And one of the things that I look for, I feel like the greatest indicator for success is not actual knowledge about what the job does. So I don't look for people with SwiftUI experience or like a lot of Xcode and Swift experience. I do look for people who have done Swift and Xcode, but even if it is a small app. But what I really look for is the ability to learn and also passion. So to put it into more concrete terms, I heavily favor people who list their GitHub accounts on their resumes that I can actually click through and see the projects that they've worked on. And it's not like I'm screening their code and looking through it and seeing how they write code, but it's just a demonstration to me that this person actually likes to code and likes to program, you know, versus another applicant that doesn't have a GitHub account or hasn't linked to it, right? So that's a good indicator for me. Another one is joining hackathons. So I understand that now during COVID, hackathons are still happening, but they're happening virtually and online. So on your resume, definitely list any hackathons that you've been to, that you've participated in, because those are extracurricular, right? That's not part of school and it's mandatory. And what that shows me as an employer is that you're definitely passionate about this, about software development and coding and hacking. And also the nature of a hackathon is usually that you're trying to figure stuff out in a very short amount of time. And so the more participation that you have in hackathons, the more it shows me your ability to learn. I mean, it's not a perfect indicator, but it definitely helps. And we've hired about maybe 4 or 5 students so far. And obviously not all 5 are working because they have, they do 4 months here and then 4 months of school and then 4 months at another company and things like that. But, all in all, I've hired 4 or 5 students and they've all been phenomenal. So far so good. So that's my screening process, if that helps. Yeah, again, it's definitely try to demonstrate ability to learn and passion and interest in that area. Having a portfolio website definitely helps. Having a LinkedIn profile definitely helps. If I can see your face, you click through LinkedIn and I can see your face on your LinkedIn profile, that's definitely better than just, an empty profile image. Oh, and one funny story is don't list anything you wouldn't want your employer to see. Right? I had this one applicant list his Instagram account on his resume, and when I clicked through to it, it had images of him holding guns, and he was like this, he's holding guns, and he was just, like drinking. And what you do in your personal time is your own thing, but I don't think that helps your job prospects. You know what I mean? So just be a little sensitive about that. I mean, if someone really wants to dig into your personal life and like look you up on Facebook and try to find your Instagram account, I don't think you can stop that. But definitely don't make it so easy for them to find that stuff by putting it on your resume. Okay, let's see. Any more questions here? Good morning, Scott. Hey, Call of Programming. What are we doing here today? So we are just talking about the CodeWithChris app. I was walking through a little bit about the design, and I was going to model some of the data that we have in the wireframe, but it looks like I haven't really gotten to that just yet. And we've had a lot of good questions, and I tend to actually talk too much too. Samit asks, sir, I really start coding from zero. What should I do? Completed my BTech this month. Congratulations. And I really don't have a job, and I am, you want to work abroad, please guide me. So I think one of the easiest ways to start getting some experience is, well, this sort of ties into Ethan's question up there, is that the more stuff you can show on your like GitHub, things that you've done, the better your job prospects will be, right? If you want employers to see and get a taste of what you've done. But in terms of like actual employment, there are tons of places where you can freelance and you can sort of get some exposure. It might not be like your end all be all thing that you want to do, but ultimately you just need your foot in the door. Like you need someone to give you a chance. And if you don't have anything to show, it's hard for someone to give you a chance. Because like I remember when I first started my job, I was super nervous and I didn't feel like I was qualified. But I think that, if you don't have to be fully qualified. Like I'm thinking about my own experience. I felt like I wasn't qualified, but I worked hard in that job, and I, got up to speed, and I, figured things out on the job, learned on the job. And yeah, so it really goes back to just, you need someone to give you a try, whether that is paid or not. Now, I want to be very careful because I don't want to say that we should work for free. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I don't want to be like, yeah, you should work for free for 4 months and get some experience. I mean, that's a very easy way of getting experience and having something to put on your resume. And that might be the approach that some people take. I don't think it's a bad approach, but ultimately, I think it boils down to your personal, I don't want to say personal values, but you know, just don't devalue yourself and what you can offer, but at the same time realize that you do need to get some proof that you can do stuff and that you can figure stuff out. So again, just going back to what Ethan said, that could be attending hackathons, right? So there you can have fun and you can have something to put on your resume. It could be what June said earlier about doing HackerRank and LeetCode and those sort of programs. If they give you some sort of certificate or some sort of ranking that can sort of demonstrate your ability, that definitely helps. And some students I've seen that don't have any work experience, what they put instead are relevant courses that they've taken in school that might be helpful for the job that they're applying to. You know, that definitely helps. Extracurricular. So if I see on someone's resume that in their spare time they've built, you know, this app, or if they've worked on this project, that shows me that they've done that out of interest, right? And out of the coding and development might be something that they like to do in their spare time anyways. And to me, that is a really strong indicator of someone who is a right fit for a software developer. So me, no, I'm not the master. In fact, you know, I struggle with imposter syndrome still. If you guys have heard of that, right? It's that thinking you're not good enough, right? Thinking that you know, you don't know everything. So why should you be here creating a video or live streaming, for example? But like, what I try to keep in mind is that, okay, so the best way to overcome that is just to be honest, actually, is just to say, like, I'm here just like you, learning. And that's why I want to do like group coding and study sessions, to keep myself accountable to continuing my own learning, right? And to code here on live stream to show you guys that I'm not just typing in Xcode and building in Xcode and staying in Xcode 100% of the time. You'll see me going to Google, going to Stack Overflow, you know, searching out error messages, looking at other people's tutorials to implement stuff that I need. Because, you know, if you're honest about it, then you have nothing to hide and nothing to be ashamed of, because we're all on this learning journey. It's just that, you know, some people are farther ahead, some people are farther behind. But wherever you are at that journey, you can help the people behind you. And that's what I firmly believe. Prithvi says, I just got a Mac and installed Xcode just out of curiosity and found it very complicated. Your teaching has helped me pass through it. Now I created my own app. Oh, that's so awesome to hear. Thank you. Thank you for watching my videos. And I'm glad that those lessons have worked for you. Scott asks, do you have a course on how to use Figma? I do, actually. But before that, we actually have a video. We have videos on, let's see. Yeah, so I've done a couple of Figma videos on YouTube, and as you can see, there's a bunch of different ones, and there's one of me looking very angry here, angry thumbnail. But in addition to that, we have a course on our membership that we're actually working on right now. So this one right here, and we have an in-house designer who is teaching the Figma portions, and I am doing the Xcode integration portion. So I'm really excited for this course because this designer, I've worked with him for a long time, but it was only recently that we hired him into CodeWithChris. So he's now a full-time employee, and he's a great presenter and a great teacher. So glad I found him, and just it worked out like that. But I'm also excited to show more Figma, like design to code sort of tutorials on the YouTube channel, because in the past it was just me doing most of the coding and then throwing together something for a design. But now I can actually show that process where, you know, we go from Figma to Xcode. So you can expect to see more of that sort of content here. All right, good luck, Sumit. Work on those extracurricular activities and put them on your resume and get back out there applying to jobs. Honestly, a little bit of it is just a numbers game and luck, right? The more you apply to, the more rejections you get. You will eventually hit a yes, and you'll get your foot in the door. And as long as you're a hard worker, you know, and a smart worker, and you can figure things out, then you're gravy, right? Because after that first job, if you do well in it, that is your stepping stone to other jobs, and that second job will be much easier to find. Ethan asks, when coming up with your own app, do you recommend completing the design and user flow before you start building, or do you recommend building first? So this is a question that I get pretty often. And, you know, if you look at what I'm doing here for these wireframes, I would definitely say you need at least an idea of what screens you have in your app and what data or what you want to show on each screen before you start. Now, they don't have to be wireframes like this. You don't have to, you know, this is not a design. It's just blocks of color on a rectangle to show you where you might put something and how you might arrange something. But at least doing this at a bare minimum forces you to think about how to architect your app, because without some sort of visual, even if that visual is just in your head, if you haven't thought about it, how are you going to start building the base, right, of your project? So whether that's on pen and paper, which, to be honest, that's how I do it. Before we had a designer come on board, I just grab my notebook. All right, I just have a notebook and I just sketch out some screens, and it's honestly like very therapeutic, and it's really fun because we don't often, at least for me, I don't often get to work with paper and pencil or paper and pen anymore. So to me, that process is kind of fun. Roughly sketch out the screens I want, what elements will exist in it, and then I just jump straight into code. I actually don't design it because for me, you know, as a developer, what I only see technical challenges, right? So when I'm thinking about the app, my head is on what are going to be the roadblocks or big obstacles that I have to overcome. What do I have to figure out for this app to come to life? And that is what I'm focused on. I'm focused on solving those technical puzzles. Whereas, you know, with JC, our designer, he's focused on how do I make this a great user experience, you know, and what sort of navigation and the way we present the information, what makes sense, what makes this like a joyful app to use. And I think that because my expertise isn't there, I treat that as sort of like an afterthought. So I'm not saying that my way is right, but just as a developer, that's how I approach it. As a designer, they would go the other way around. I think if you were strong in both, let's say that you were equally strong in development and design, in the ideal world, I feel like you would go through design first. Because, you know, if you look at, what is it? The waterfall software development process or life cycle, whatever you want to call it. This is one way of, you know, building software, and it's basically a sequence of steps that you go through. And if you look at this, right, it's requirements. You gather the requirements from the client or from yourself. If you're building the app, you gather the technical requirements, write down everything that your app should do, go through design, right? And this is, I think, it says software architecture here, right? But I think this would also, like, before you can architect your app, you need to know what you're architecting and what screens there will be. So I think this step also involves like visual design as well as like technical design, and then implementation and all this. So this is the waterfall model. I think that nowadays product development is more, you know, iterative is the more popular approach. So you know, a lot of people like to use the agile software development, but I feel like here you're still gonna need to go through like a minimal level of design. So I don't know if you guys can see this. If I click this, it says that should go through requirements, design, development, testing, deployment, review, but you're just doing it in like a tighter, smaller chunk. So at the end of the day, I feel like, yeah, as a developer, you still at least need to rough out some screens in your notebook. Yuvraj, you ask, how did you find your purpose and love for coding? I fell in love with it in school. I had to take a mandatory programming class in grade 10 and instantly sort of just fell in love with it. I was trying to build Pokemon. Pokemon was a game that was popular at that time, and to be honest, I didn't actually even play Pokemon on the Game Boy. I didn't, but for some reason I wanted to build it because I just learned programming and I wanted to learn it. And I built a volleyball game and chess, and I sort of just fell in love with it, building games, because as a kid, who doesn't like playing games, right? So I would build little games. And then that's when I decided I wanted to go to university for that. Bo asks, hello Chris, first time being here. I learned about your tutorials because one of my teachers used your tutorials to teach. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. I found them very useful and also subscribed to your courses. Thank you so much. And yeah, so earlier I was talking about the language that schools use, like learning outcomes, and there were some other ones like pedagogy or something like that. Anyways, we created documents. There was a lot of documents that we created for the purpose of, you know, being a legit course curriculum provider for schools. And we actually got to the point of talking to school boards, which is really, really cool. But what we learned was that school boards, there's a lot of like bureaucracy and red tape. They don't, like, sometimes what courses and what curriculum gets chosen, like what training materials get chosen, is not based on the merit of the material itself. And I think this goes with just life in general. There's a lot of business relationships, other motives that drive those decisions into what they choose to use, right? Money could be exchanged. There might be incentives to go with different. Anyways, so we realized that at that time it was just my wife and I, Ellen, working on Code with Chris. So we realized that, man, we'd really have to dedicate a lot of resources and a lot of time to try to get into schools like that. So we sort of abandoned trying to get our course as a school board wide curriculum for like all classes. But however, we have gotten some teachers coming to us wanting to use our foundations course for teaching their class. And this is really a happy medium because, you know, it's not school board wide, and that teacher probably has some sort of autonomy on what they want to use to teach. And because they've taken some of our lessons, maybe they find that our teaching method jives with their class and the way they want to present the class, then we do have a handful, maybe about 4 different classrooms actually in school using this curriculum for their computer science class or their app development class. And what was really cool was I actually got to appear to one of the classes, and we did sort of like a Zoom thing with all the students, and it sort of brought me full circle back to where I started with my programming journey. It was in school. That's where I discovered coding and programming. So that was really cool in terms of the experience. In 2018, your video for creating an app in Xcode got me coding, and since then I've recently come back to finish it. That's great. That's great. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, never give up. And to be honest, I never knew that I'd still be doing this, 8 years later, but I'm so thankful. So thankful to all of you guys for learning with me. Jeff says, I created a game with 5,000 lines of code and it's getting hard for debugging, and it's almost done, but the UI is not very good. but it is nice doing it, and I can't wait to publish the game on Android. That's awesome. Congratulations, Jeff. That's going to be a huge achievement. Suni says, hey Chris, I'm a high school student who loves your channel. I was wondering if you offer a student discount. Very low budget. So actually, if you look at the description of this live stream, you'll see a special offer, like a heavily discounted price to join our courses. Check it out. That might fit your budget. If not, then we will think about doing some giveaways or some other ways where you can maybe earn a membership or something like that, or win a membership. Recently, we did a CWC Stories campaign where I asked you guys for all of your programming and coding stories, like how you got started. And we said that anyone who submitted a story will get a free month of CWC Plus. And I don't know if you've missed that. Maybe you didn't see it or anything like that, but we are going to feature those stories. That campaign has ended, but if you want to also submit, let's see, where do we go here? Video Peel is the platform that we use. If you want to submit a testimonial or a video, your story, if you want to do that, we have I'll paste this URL in here. Let me see what this looks like. I'll give you this one. So you could record a testimonial right from your browser, and basically what we've been doing is anyone who records a video for us, we offer them a free month of CWC Plus just as a thank you. So I'll paste this in the chat just in case anyone wants to go ahead and do this. So there's that. But we're about to wrap up the stream here. Time is ending, but I'll stream again, I think probably next Tuesday. Check out the cwc.to/streams. If you come here, you'll always see the schedule for streams coming up and the links. Yeah, Suni. Okay, so in that case it won't work, but if you want to check out the link in the description of this video, if that fits your budget, then awesome. So check that out. I'll probably stream again next Tuesday. Mondays are a little bit busy. And again, I think that the types of streams, maybe I'll ask you guys, what sort of streams do you guys want to see? Let me just do a poll here. Let's do a straw poll. Before I go, there's actually a polling feature in Streamlabs. I just have not used it before. So, okay. Oh. Favorite? Okay, because I have to give you some concrete options here. So, study, code, work streams. What else do we have? We have Q&A, chat, hangout streams, which is kind of what this stream turned out to be. Presentations. This is more of like PowerPoint or Keynote type of slides, types of presentations. You know, like PowerPoint, Keynote, slide, presentation. Or how about, yeah, so there's like building something on stream that is not prepared. So it's like random, not like, I will probably think about what I want to build, but I wouldn't have built it before. And so you can sort of see the process of me trying to put it together. And that will sort of be the ultimate humbling experience, right? Because, you know, you'll get a sense of what I think all developers go through is the idea in the beginning is very messy and very hazy. But then as you work on it more and as you like pull pieces from here, pull pieces from there, it starts getting a little more concrete. Are there any other answers here that you guys want to add? A build with me. So I think a build with me would be something like this. But with this, I have to wait for my new Mac to come in, because I told you guys before, with this Mac, as soon as I hit compile or build on Xcode, the CPU, it takes up all my CPU, and then the stream sort of stutters and buffers, and that's not going to be great. So I have a new Mac coming in. It'll probably be closer to the end of June, where I can actually stream and build stuff at the same time. So let me create this now. I think this is fine. Or you know what, I'm going to allow multiple choices just so we can get some more answers. Can I just share this with you guys? Awesome, Scott. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, that's what I have coming in here. What time is it showing? Chris, do you think the website for Swift Xcode open when app development comes to iPad? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Can you rephrase your question, Jeff? We've just got one vote so far. We have 30 people on the stream. Or are the results just a little slow coming in? All right, guys, get your answers in. Like I said, I do want to, these are definitely on, well, these are all sort of on my radar to do. Hey Suni, yeah, unfortunately, the discount is for a month. Unfortunately, I can't give a rate like that for forever. So sorry about that. Votes are coming in. Yes. Okay, so there's a clear winner here. Okay, while you guys do that, I am going to do a typing test. I'm not a fast typer. Well, I don't feel like I am a fast typer because I watch some other people type and they can type really fast. So have you guys ever checked your words per minute or a rate of typing rate? All right, so I'm gonna try this while you guys get in. What you guys guess what my words per minute will be on the stream. Start over. Wow. Guys, this is crazy. This is my highest yet. And this is on stream. I thought I'd be so nervous that I'd like choke and seize up, but that's crazy. I should do these tests more often on stream. I just hit a personal record here. But you guys can see my what what a nerd I am doing typing tests. But yeah, this is cool. Before my highest was that. So today got a higher one. Maybe we'll do a few more in the future. Let's check the results. What? No study, code, and work streams, you guys? These would be like the most chill and relaxing for me. I could just turn on the camera for hours. We'll just do like a 5-hour study code work stream or something like that. But okay, I see where your guys' heads are at. Okay, but you guys are gonna have to wait until the new Mac comes in and we'll build something on stream. Unfortunately, I have to go, but Ethan, last question very quickly. Do you recommend learning official iOS frameworks versus Google Firebase, or is that more dependent on the jobs you're applying for startups versus legacy applications? I think that there aren't official iOS frameworks for everything, right? So unfortunately, you can't use that for everything, but in the cases where you can, you definitely, like if there is a SwiftUI component that fits my needs, I would use it. If it doesn't fit my need, you could try to extend it, or you can try to find like a pre-built one. But I think first I would look towards Apple. Definitely. Like in the past, for example, I've used Realm for local database, but then MongoDB acquired Realm and it really changed everything. And so, if you had built a serious app using Realm as your backend, you'd have to do some crazy modifications. But let's say that you opted to use Core Data instead. Like let's say both Realm and Core Data fit your needs perfectly and you just couldn't decide which one. It turns out that sticking with the Apple framework would have saved you a ton of work. So I feel like if the Apple frameworks fits your needs, then that might be the way to go. But anyways, thank you guys so much. Unfortunately, I have to run and have lunch with the family. But again, I'm so glad to see so many familiar faces come back. And the next time I'll be streaming is probably on Tuesday. So again, check out cwc.to/streams and you'll see this. I don't have it up here, but I'm going to, you'll find the schedule and you'll find the link. All right, thank you guys so much. And we'll do this again next time. See you guys.